being from Kansas, you have a chip on your shoulder just to even get to this level. And so being at this level with guys that were from Kansas is different. And you can tell that from, just the way guys go by their business at Kansas State. I feel like I've never been around a group of guys that work as hard as we do.
Hello and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network, brought to you by Home Field Apparel. I'm Kevin Flaherty, and I'm here as always with my good friend Ryan Wallace, and we're talking about the world of local recruiting from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. We have another exciting guest this week, and former Derby, Kansas star and current Kansas State running back Dylan Edwards, as the Wildcats are getting ready for spring practice. The former Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year, Dylan's one of the most competitive recruits that we have ever covered. And he used that fire to become a four-star recruit coveted by schools across the country. And he's primed for a big second season with the Kansas State Wildcats. As always, if you like what you're hearing, comment below, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, or leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts like Apple or Spotify. All of those things help us to grow the channel and help put us in front of more people like you. Ryan, this week, you're back on the Missouri side of Kansas City for our prospect profiles. So who's catching your eye on that part of the metro this week?
I'm going back into the trenches, and I'm going to, a spot that, I helped pave the way for last year's Simone Award winner, and it starts at the offensive line at Liberty. Jonathan Piercy, 2026 interior lineman. You see him there, 6'4", 290, 295. I've heard from Coach Freegon approaching 300 pounds these days. And a three-sport athlete at that, Kevin. Plays center on the basketball team for the Blue Jays, and also a first baseman who can rake it. If you go on his social media page, it's all there for you to see. But we're here to talk about him as a football and a future interior lineman. Kevin, it's all there. I love everything about Jonathan Piercy's film, and he's not one that is without some attention. So he's already got Sacramento State and all the military academy offers, and I think Wyoming, North Dakota State, Colorado State could come after camp, and you see why in a lot of these clips, because he's immensely powerful once he gets that extension with his arms. I love the sound hand placement that he plays with. He's got good hand combat, can kind of adjust those hands when defensive linemen, want to try and reacclimate themselves. He does a great job there. You see in all these clips, though, continues to drive his feet through contact despite having great upper body strength. A lot of times we'll watch guys, and you know this, Kevin, where they know they're stronger up top, right?
Yep.
And yet they'll just kind of rely on that. But Jonathan is a guy that has that and still continues to drive with his feet. I think he's going to continue to, keep working on the bend, right? Keep working on the agility and some of that flexibility, and at times maybe playing a little bit more consistently lower. But overall, Kevin, everything else for me is there. We talked about the arms, the 32.5-inch arm length. He's a 4.0 student in the classroom. He's got the same hand size. I was looking up at the NFL Combine as Logan Brown, 10-inch hands. So this is a kid. The other thing that caught my attention, Kevin, you'd have to go back to his sophomore tape to see it. Played some center as a sophomore, then slid out to guard last year. Again, I talked to Chad Freegon, the head coach over there at Liberty, friend of the show, one of the guys that I know you and I think immense respect for in the Metro. He coached Trevor Bindle last year. Trevor Bindle was a guy that was committed to South Dakota State, followed that staff to Wazoo. So he'll be up at Washington State this fall as a freshman. And he thinks Piercy's an FBS lineman. And I say all that because he now knows what an FBS lineman looks like. He knows what FBS players, what Power 4 players look like. The more I watch Jonathan Piercy, I have to agree with him, Kevin.
Liberty was absolutely stacked in the trenches a year ago. When we saw them, it was apparent before the game started when you saw those guys walking around in warm-ups. They should be terrific up front again this year. Multiple really good linemen there to keep an eye on. On the Kansas side, I'm actually picking someone you might be able to talk about more than I could. And that's Manhattan running back Kamario Davis. Manhattan, Ryan, really had a great year last year, reaching the state championship game, and the Indians did so despite Davis playing just 4 games because of an injury. Well, he's healthy now, and I know you thought really highly of him before the injury. He's showing out in 7-on-7. He's got a great frame at 6 foot and coming up close on 200 pounds, but he's not just a bigger back. He can move, and you see that in his clips. You know, here you're going to see him kind of get the edge, put his foot in the ground, and accelerate. He's got more juice than you would expect for a back of his size. The other thing, Ryan, that I think makes him really intriguing, and you see him catching the pitch here, he's got really good hands and catch the ball out of the backfield. That's what everybody is looking for, and makes him an intriguing guy because everyone is looking for that trait.
No doubt. And the thing that catches me with Kamario that I felt like I noticed right away, I saw him at K-State camp. That was my introduction to him, was last summer, and seeing him in the running back group at the camp he was out, he stood out physically. And you can go find the photo of him standing next to Brian Anderson on Bill Snyder at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I mean, he looks the part. But the more you watch his tape, you highlighted some great things about Kamario that I think don't get enough attention, which is I think he's developing rather quickly as a pass catcher and as a receiver. I think he's got a little bit better burst than people give him credit for. Maybe it's not, breakaway speed where he's going to, extend his lead, 40, 50 yards downfield, but it's enough to break away, right? And then you saw it in a couple of those clips is just his ability to absorb contact, to withstand contact. He's got clips of him, running with guys on his back, from his sophomore season back before he was even as big as he is now. And so again, all that to say, as you mentioned, Manhattan did what they did last year really without Kamario Davis, especially in games like Derby, that we were able to see them take on a really physical defense without a Kamario Davis. And I'll pitch it back to you by saying this, Kevin. There's a lot about when I watch Kamario Davis that reminds me of a rival running back of Manhattan's from a couple years ago that's getting some attention in the NFL draft. That's DJ Giddens. DJ Giddens was a guy that wasn't really known for breakaway speed, but he had that burst and the quick feet in tight spaces for a bigger back. Kamario Davis strikes me as a guy that, once you kind of maybe teach him, fine tune some things in his running style, teach him how to be a little bit faster and get into alleys and things like that, he could be maybe kind of a second coming of DJ Giddens, if you will. I know that's high praise, right? But again, just stylistically, there's a lot that you can see that they mirror each other.
Tremendous contact balance for both guys. I think the other thing that you kind of talked about that I agree with is DJ Giddens at the same point wasn't a breakaway guy as much as he was a little bit faster than the guy chasing him, right? Like if you were pursuit drilling and you were trying to run him down, you thought he'd be here and he would be, just a little bit further than where you thought he would be. I see a lot of that with Davis for sure. Keep an eye on both of those players through the summer camp circuit because I think that could be a source of offers for both.
No doubt.
Guys. But before we get to that point, Ryan, we should have some real football to watch as the UFL gets ready to kick off on Friday. And why are we talking about the UFL here on Verbal Commitment, you might ask? Because the league is absolutely stacked, Ryan, with local players. White names here on the graphic that we're getting ready to show are from Kansas and Kansas City, while the gray names are players who played their college ball locally. Of course, some of the players did both. Ryan, is there anybody on that list that, you just kind of circled and said, oh, man, like I'm kind of interested to watch this guy?
Well, when I think back to their high school days and maybe some guys that I haven't seen since then, but really excited me, at the high school level, Freedom Akeem Maladen out at Grandview was a guy that was just an absolute freak show at Grandview, ended up going to Nebraska, did some things for the Huskers, but I haven't seen him play in a while. So, maybe the Battlehawks are a team that I'll turn on just to see Freedom play. And Big Ike, down at
Yes.
San Antonio, is a guy, that out of Ruskin, went to Rice University, and again was a project that you and I felt after watching him. I think it was at maybe one of the 8-10 varsity combines back in the day that you just thought, we talk about all the time, this was a guy that had the tools that was worth investing in. There was a project that you could see being moldable, and he has turned into that. Overall, though, Kevin, the thing that I know you would agree with, that you and I love most about seeing this kind of list, is that it proves that, this isn't a flyover country anymore, that there's some really good talent here. But also, I love what the UFL now provides for guys. And again, I know that you've got the Canadian Football League where, guys like Dalton Schoen, other locals have made a name for themselves up there. But, making an NFL roster is one thing and is incredibly hard to do. But I think making a UFL roster, semi-pro is no slouch either here. And you go through some of these rosters, there's some absolute playmakers. And so to have this many local, this much local flavor littered throughout this league, I just think says a lot about how far football's come in this area.
Yeah, and we've seen some of these guys from the UFL go on to make NFL rosters. And so it's a chance not just to play in the UFL, but also a chance to continue to catch the eye of NFL scouts and potentially push yourself into a camp. And so we wish all of these local players the best of luck in this season, and hope they all have a great one.
Kevin, let me mention one more thing here that just caught my attention and slipped my mind until the very end there. But how cool is it too to see not only the local guys have success from the local schools, right? So you see Bryce Tornado in there from KU, you see Noah Johnson, local guys that that were able to get to the power local schools and still make it out. But you also love, the journeys that, a Jabril Cox made, right? Going to North Dakota State and then eventually to LSU. But even like Jaden Price from Derby that just went to North Dakota State and did great things at North Dakota State and still finds his way into a semi-pro roster. Story Jackson, a guy that played big football at Olathe North. You would think, that classification would have gotten him noticed. He ends up having to go all the way to Liberty. But again, another success story, because it's all about kind of what you make out of wherever you end up. All of those guys have great journeys and great success stories for Kansas City and Kansas as a whole.
Scouts, pro, semi-pro, they will find you wherever you're at. If you're good enough, they will find you. Well, he found the end zone 8 times in his first year as a Wildcat and averaged 7.4 yards per carry. He's Dylan Edwards, who made a name for himself at Derby High School, enters the 2025 season as one of the Big 12's and the nation's most explosive weapons. He'll be joining us here on the show in just a minute. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Home Field Apparel, who have you covered as you start shedding all of those layers and heavy sweatshirts and start climbing into t-shirts and shorts. You can still support your favorite school and look great doing it. Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri fans all have more than 40 items to choose from, so head on over to homefieldapparel.com, use the promo code link below in the description, and you can get 15% off your first order. We'll be right back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner impossible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast, sponsored by Home Field Apparel. We're joined by Kansas State running back Dylan Edwards, former Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year at Derby High School. Dylan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Dylan, obviously, it's a huge storyline. Everybody talks about it. You grew up with Avery. You wind up being rivals in high school, having these two just absolute classic games your junior and senior year. and now you guys are back together in college sharing the same backfield. What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely competitive. I say during drills and such, but sharing the backfield with him, I mean, it's a great feeling. Just having somebody just as fast as you, right next to you, and he can make a play at any time. So just having him beside me is great.
Last time we saw you in the field, Dylan, 220 yards plus yards of offense, 3 touchdowns, offensive MVP. What was it? Most rushing yards in a K-State bowl game ever by a Wildcat. So I'm curious, though, to kind of take us back to that game, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, and kind of the emotions that you had going into that game and kind of the emotions you had coming out of the performance that you ended up putting out there.
Yeah, I mean, going into it, I definitely had butterflies, just like I do before any football game I've ever played. And I just came into it, more with just play the game within the game. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Just stay neutral through the game, and it was a battle. And I'm just glad we came up with the win. It wasn't really about what I did. It was just I'm glad we came out with the win and ended the season how we did. And hopefully next year we'll have more games to where we come out with the win like that. I love games like that. I think going into next year, I think that was a great game to, fall back on.
Dylan, I mentioned in the opening segment how Ryan and I have called you maybe the most competitive player that we've covered through our time covering recruiting. It always felt like if there was somebody like ranked ahead of you in the rankings, you were kind of like, show me where that guy's home field is. I'll go to his field. I'll beat him out, and you'll know that I'm a better prospect. Where does that fire come from? Was that something you just kind of always had, or was that something you developed as maybe the recruiting process was going on?
Yeah, I think it started my competitive nature just when I was younger. Just having a brother that was 2, 3 years older than me. Um, Being in the house with him roughing me up all the time, and just having to compete against him in whatever I did, whether that was the video game or just being out there on the field. And then my dad just pushing us every single day to, become better. I think that's what, built my competitive nature in me.
I want to piggyback off that for a second from Kevin's question, Dylan, because, it's rare nowadays, it feels like, where you get the kids that, have the accolades, have the recruiting profile, and they kind of shut it down. And, we remember watching you after your freshman year at Derby coming out to Sharp Combine. You were still doing camps. You were still doing combines going up into your senior year when, you could say you didn't have to. Kind of give the spiel to the high school kids now that maybe think, well, my recruitment's up there enough. Like, I don't need to show out. Kind of talk to them into the camera and let them know how important it is to, never be satisfied, I guess maybe is the term to put out there.
Yeah, nothing comes easy, especially for me being from Kansas. I was already on the bottom of the radar. No one really recruits Kansas, as a state of, dominance. And I feel like, especially when I was in high school, I felt like when we were coming up, we were just very slept on. And so I try every day, work on my game, whether that's lifting with my high school team at the time or going somewhere with my dad or my trainers. Lord rest, John Thompson, he just passed away. But I'm just, I don't know. It's just, as a high schooler, I tell myself to just stay humble, because any of this can be taken at any time. So don't take any of it for granted. And to really just get into recovery. That's one thing I would say. Get into recovery, because your body's gonna hurt once you get to about your junior, senior year of college. So if you start good habits now, then later on they'll become pro habits.
You talked about developing your game. When we saw you at that Sharp Combine, I think after your freshman year, one of the things that you talked about was you wanted to kind of improve where you were as a pass catcher out of the backfield. You wanted to improve as a route runner. You wanted to work on your hands, all that stuff. Now it's maybe arguably the strongest part of your game. It's something that people bring up really quickly when they talk about your game. What was that process like, and how did you turn something that you saw as a weakness into one of the stronger parts of your game?
Um, really just all I can say is just work. Just looking at different guys. I watch YouTube a lot, so I'll look up, different releases I could do or what I could do coming off a route if I need to, do something different. Just try to take something from other people's games and try to add it to mine. I just try to be a sponge when it comes to, learning about other people's games so I can, make mine better. So that's pretty much it.
Is there an element of your game right now that you're kind of prioritizing heading into this spring in terms of improvement?
Yeah, just getting stronger, bigger and stronger. Obviously, the weight's gonna come, but just being more explosive, just going out here and just becoming better every day. That's pretty much all I can work on. It's nothing really specific, Being a football player, you got to know the ins and outs of the game, film wise, football wise. It goes way deeper when you get to college. So, just just becoming an overall better player.
Kevin, if I may, real quick, jump in because you reminded me of something here, Dylan. You talked about getting stronger, the burst and all those things, the explosion, the stories that we hear and the reputation that he's now gotten at Kansas State and even before Kansas State. Coach True's the real deal, huh?
Yes, Coach True is the real deal. Um, I can't even put the words, how much, he means to me and the football team. He's definitely a leader when it comes to, raising a family and stuff like that. He has his family around all the time. I remember catching Jugs today in the weight room and his family was just in there chilling with him. So, that motivates me to keep going, every day because I want to be successful, regardless if it's football or not, having a family, just being a overall good man is what I'm trying to be. And that's what he represents.
We had Devin Neal on the show, and he grew up a KU fan and talked about having like James Sims posters on his wall growing up and all that stuff. Obviously, you're a K-State legacy. Your dad. Did you have anybody that you watched specifically at K-State growing up? Anybody that you attached to where you're like, that's my dude. That's the guy that I want to emulate, or doesn't even have to be a running back, just somebody that you really kind of fell in love with from K-State as a kid?
Well, my dad used to always have me watch the old videos of Kansas State. So, like, I used to watch, like, man, obviously my dad, he has his clips on YouTube. J.J. Smith, Chris Canty, Joe Gordon. Man, you got all types of people. Like, man, I used to watch them all. I can't lie. It used to be like the old games. So I used to watch the full game and stuff like that. So Michael Bishop, like I can go on and on and on. Michael used to have stories. Sir?
Did you watch any Coach Clark stuff?
No, I haven't watched Clark Service, but I know Coach Clark was a dog. I'm not hating. I swear, I know Coach Clark was a dog.
Do you and your dad ever go back and forth of like the whole like MJ versus LeBron thing of like his crew against your crew, like who's winning kind of thing? Is there debates in the Edwards house?
No. But he has debates with him. Who was faster? Who was better? Stuff like that. You know how that goes.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, let me ask you about a player then that's more recent. What do you take away most from a guy like DJ Giddens?
His humbleness, how he carried himself. You wouldn't even know, he was a football player. Like really, just talking to him, he's a different guy. Somebody I didn't think was gonna be like that when I first met him, and the more I started to get to know him, the more I started to respect him more and more. And so having him, as a person I came in with to, get to know and just to know the system of Kansas State, I think that was one of the most perfect guys to, teaching me the ways of Kansas State and stuff like that and how to go by it.
I know you remember Steve Wiltfong listed you as like the player in your class most likely to return the opening kickoff in the season opener, the first game of his career for a touchdown out of your recruiting class. You wind up having just a huge game in that first one. Was there ever a point that you just looked around and said, "Oh my God, this isn't Derby High School anymore. Like this is it. This is Division I football right now."
Yeah, I knew that from my first day of college. When I seen guys with beards and way bigger than me, and so my first day at college was a reality check for me, and it definitely made me who I am today.
Finish this sentence for me, Dylan. The Matt Wells K-State offense will be blank.
Explosive.
Explosive. What do you feel like, without getting you in trouble from the coaching staff, what will be kind of the most different thing about 2025's offense from 2024's offense?
Just I feel Avery has more control of, the guys on the offense. Everybody listens to him. He's our quarterback, and so he has control. He throws more to the, receivers and stuff like that, and just building more chemistry through the off season is what really Coach Wells and all the offensive coaches have really instilled in everybody is to, if we, create chemistry off the field, it will be great on the field. And so just having each other, I don't know how to explain it. So it's just going to be really explosive because we have a lot of new guys that can make really big plays. We have tall receivers, fast receivers, guys that are 50, just finesse guys. So it's going to be a good year for sure.
There's almost too many Kansans to mention on K-State's roster because you start going down it and you're going to miss somebody. Is there something special for you as a Kansas player to put on that Kansas State purple?
Yeah, it definitely is because being from Kansas, you have a chip on your shoulder just to even get to this level. And so being at this level with guys that were from Kansas, it's different. And you can tell that from, just the way guys go by their business at Kansas State. I feel like I've never been around a group of guys that work as hard as we do. And so just seeing that motivates me every day. Seeing my teammates motivates me because I know they're going to go hard for me. So as long as I do my job, everything will take care of itself.
Speaking of Kansans and explosive ones at that, Lincoln Cure not even on campus yet. So there's another weapon that's still kind of lingering and will arrive later in the summer. But speaking of players, give us maybe one offensive player, one defensive player that you're excited about. Maybe it's a Kansan, maybe it's not, but just somebody you're excited about kind of as we start to dive into more spring football and getting their chance maybe in 2025.
Yeah, I'd definitely say the DBs, Zayshawn Rich, Jaden Rowe, Donovan McIntosh, all those guys. Marion Fortenberry, the new guy we just got from South Alabama. He's really good. They're very competitive guys, and you see it every day. And on offense, I like the freshman Larry Porter. He's real good. I like him.
Our guy.
Ron Bradley. He's a really big body receiver that can go get it. He's a jump ball guy. I remember the first time we ran routes with Avery, first catch he did was like one-handed catch, like behind him. And it was like him in the air. It was tough. And I knew after that, like, he's going to be a guy that, we definitely rely on a lot this year. And obviously you have Jace coming back and Avery. And so just having them guys have that chemistry they have and just having the ball getting thrown downfield is going to be exciting.
You've at every stage of your career, you've been a pretty special teams guy. This year, probably going to take on a lot bigger load offensively. Are you still maybe going to sneak over and kind of elbow the special teams coaches and say, let me take this punt back, let me have this kickoff, and how's that going to go?
Yeah, special teams is definitely a big part of my game. But I want to be a three-way player, running, catching, special teams. So I feel like I've showed, glimpses of it, during my college career, but this year I just want to become more better, like I said, and really doing no talking about, what's going to happen in the season, just working towards everything and my goals that I have in mind and just keeping God first. So
Dylan, I want you to pretend for a minute that you're an agent, right? And I want you to give me a recruiting pitch for one of our guys. He's probably the captain of Kevin and I, what we like to call hashtag Team Fun Tape. And that's your guy down at Derby, Arius Finley. If you're kind of his agent, for any college coaches that are out there listening, what's your recruiting pitch on why they need to give more attention to Derby's running back, Arius Finley?
He's shifty. He can run. He has hands out the backfield and he can run routes. So, and he's from Derby, so the guy with a chip on his shoulder, and he's a dog. So, yeah.
I do have to ask, what's it like to play for Coach Clark? He's obviously one of our favorites here on the show. He cracks us up sometimes because he can go from, yelling really quickly to just like smiling and laughing, sort of like that. Like the moment's gone to yell it, and so he's loving guys up. What was it like to play for Coach Clark at Derby?
Me and Coach Clark were close. He knew a lot about me and my family and just how I grew up and my upbringing. I mean, he's been knowing me since I was real young. I used to go to Derby games as a kid, so just having him see me grow up to what I am now is special. And he actually texted me the other day and wanted to, hang out with me over spring break, but I didn't get to happen. It didn't happen. Sad, but hopefully this summer I can, go up there and be with the guys and just, have fun in high school again or something like that.
Well, let me finish. Kevin, should we do a little quick hitter? I got some quick hitters for Dylan. Okay, we like to finish sometimes with some rapid fires here, kind of off topic stuff, but we'll have some fun with it. You mentioned, you're coming off of spring break, right? So let's stay with that theme here. You got a favorite spot that you've ever vacationed, or maybe there's a place that you haven't vacationed that you'd like to hit for like a spring break or summer break?
Yeah, last year I went to Maui, Hawaii for spring break.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. How about, Avery Johnson's got the strawberry lemonade. What should his next flavor be if he debuts a number 2 flavor?
Fruit punch.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
When you were in high school, you were already kind of ahead of the game in terms of that marketing and apparel. Are there any, Avery's got his lemonade stuff. Is there any Dylan Edwards kind of apparel or stuff that could be in the works and on the way?
No, it's still the same website, rundylanrun.com. You can get a shirt, sweater, sweats.
Very nice. Very nice. This year, when you do get back into the end zone, do you have like a go-to celebration or do you kind of mix up the celebrations?
I guess I'm gonna mix it up a little. I say this year is just gonna be, I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I'm gonna do something.
We saw some gritty last year, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of the Vikings guy that does like the choreographed dances from like the Disney movies? He gets all his teammates in on it and stuff.
Who?
Who is it, Ryan, that does the...
It's not Addison. It's not Jordan Addison, is it? And it's not Jefferson. Who's Aaron? Wouldn't be Aaron Jones, would it?
I don't think so. You want to ask the next question?
Yeah, you look it up. Okay, so let's go back to K-State for a minute. Your ideal K-State uniform combo?
All white.
All white.
Yeah.
It's a clean look. And then while Kevin finds it, March Madness obviously still going on. How's the bracket looking? And do you still have your champion alive? And if not, who would you pick as your champion right now?
Yeah, I haven't been following college basketball. I have seen our girls team.
There you go.
Is doing real good. So I've been watching them, and yeah, I hope they go as far as they can, even to the Natty. So yeah, that's who I'm rooting for. It don't matter.
There you go.
Yeah, so we've got Cameron Bynum. They've done the Ray Gun celebration, the Parent Trap handshake, the White Chicks dance, the Camp Rock dance, and the High School Musical celebration. And he gets like all his teammates in on it too, so that like the whole defense, I guess, does the celebration at the same time.
Dylan, what's Coach Kleiman's reaction though if this goes down?
I'm not sure. He'll probably just turn very red, and I don't know. He'll turn very red and just, I don't know. He'll get mad though. I definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe something to avoid, but hey, we'll support it if you go for it. Blame us if Coach Kleiman asks.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
All right, Ryan. Anything else?
No, we're good.
All right.
Pass with flying colors.
There you go. Thanks again, Dylan, for joining us. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on KCSN. If you like what you've seen or heard, comment below, leave us a like, subscribe, or hit us with a 5-star rating. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, and take care.